Good morning, everybody. Today, we're stripping a hood. Down here in Florida, we have this major issue of the sun just kills your paint and breaks down your clear coat and turns it to crap. And this is what happens most of the time. Clear just starts breaking down, then it reveals your base coat and it blisters. So we're going to be stripping this. As you can see, I've already started. What I start with is, and this is just my personal preference, everybody's got their own way to do things. This is mine. Start with 80 grit. Break it down. And I go down to, I'd like to leave the factory primer if it's there. If it's multiple layers of paint, it's been repainted a bunch of times, you just need to just strip the whole thing and start over. So I'll strip it down with 80 grit. I'll come back with 320 and smooth it out. Now this is 320. And I'm going to work on this some more. So you want to get rid of basically the paint. Don't want this here. You can leave some primer spots if you want. Yes, you almost go down to bare metal a lot. I leave the primer because that gives me kind of a guide. So I'm not digging into the metal quite as much right here and leaving heavy scratches, 80 grit scratches like you're seeing. That kind of polishes it up, removes those 80 grits, leaves me a 320, and then I can come back and put my urethane primer surfacer on that. First I will put a self-etching because I'm down to bare metal, then I'll put the urethane primer on that. So let's get started. But it's just that type of joint, and I forget what that name of that is, a bally thingamajiggy. Anyway, so yeah, well, see, it's in. Oh man. Always wear your protection, dust mask, whatever. Don't do like I do and not wear it sometimes. All right, I'm going to start working with the 80 grit. So here we go. This I've already done with 80 grit. I'm going to work this a little bit more, and then I'm going to hit it with 320 and show you what I'm going to do there. You can see how the scratches, pretty deep scratches. And I'm going to switch over to my 320, brand new sheet. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that. And trying to do this one-handed makes it interesting. Okay, you see my 80 grit, but you see how now my 80 grit is disappearing because I have a guide to show me that it's gone. Now there'll be a few scratches here and there, but that's nothing that the primer won't fill. Okay, so you get my point. This is what we want to get it to. Then we can self-etch it and put urethane on it. I'm going to get this stripped out, and we'll see you in a bit. Okay, we're back. As you can see, we've got everything stripped out. Periodically, as you noticed, I would rub my hand over the hood, and that's checking for dents. There's a little dent right here that we're going to take care of now. I scuffed this up a little more with some 80 grit, a little better adhesion, and we're going to put a little filler on it, make it all pretty. And everybody's got their own way to mix body filler. This is mine. You can do what you want. You know, the way is to go like this, so you get all your air bubbles out. I've done it all kinds of different ways. It doesn't matter, you're getting air bubbles, because you got to fold it over and fold it over to mix it. And this is just a very small dent. And there's a little chunk of stuff we don't want in it, of course. So, like I said, you spread your filler, push it down a little hard to get a nice little skim coat on it, and then come back with your fill and get the garbage out of it so you can get a nice smooth there. I don't know if you even saw that because you're probably looking at the side of my nose. Anyway, do a push down hard in the beginning like so you can get a nice little guide coat so it sticks well, and then come back with a little more filler and fill it. And there you go. And doesn't take much. And this is how we clean up our board, which my board needs to be sanded down because I've got a huge board and very little spot to mix any filler. So everything's sanded down. Next step is to blow and wipe and clean this off, get it over to my buddy's spray booth, and get some urethane primer, self-etching first, urethane primer, or you can use an epoxy primer, which is a one-step deal, and it will stick to the bare metal. I might do that. I'm not sure yet. So, you will see. Okay, we've got our body filler smoothed out. Have not sanded it yet. Still tacking up. What I did want to mention, when you're sanding these hoods down and stripping them out, do not be afraid to use sandpaper. Don't be cheap, because what will happen is you will try to use one piece of sandpaper and work all this down, and all you're doing is pushing down harder and creating heat in the metal on the hood. And you can actually warp it by doing that, because if you were to feel it, it would be hot. So don't be afraid to use that sandpaper. Makes a better job and actually goes faster. And if you want to consider your time versus a few dollars in sandpaper versus how long it takes you to work one area with a filled up, worn out piece of sandpaper, using the sandpaper more often wins, in my opinion. See you in a minute. We'll get this sanded down, get it to my buddy's booth, and get some primer on it. We are back. Hey, we're in the booth. We're prepping, blowing it all off, all that good stuff. We're prepping to put some primer on it. What we're going to do now is back tape the hood, and I'm going to show you what that means. Let me get my roll of tape and quickly show you. Back taping, basically, take one piece of tape, and I'm going to try to hold the camera and show you. Hopefully I don't drop the camera. Now there's a rubber on the back of this hood that I'm going to squeak this into, but this is basically. And what you want to do is see the dirt that was on there. So I'm going to go back and wipe the edge of that hood off so that this tape sticks well. But that's back taping. Then what I do is some people will take their paper and then stick it to this. Just, it's all up to you. This is what I do. I come back with another piece of tape, and see, that's why that just came off. So that's why you need to wipe and clean it. And this is hard to do and hold this camera. So anyway, come back and put another piece of tape on it as close to the edge as you can without touching the hood. And then that takes care of that sticky part. Because if you pull a big piece of plastic up over here, and there's sticky tape showing, that plastic sticks to it. Then you got a big pain and a big mess. And that just pulled right off. See the dirt that's on there? Yeah, we're going to get rid of that. So I'm going to sit you here on your little pedestal. You can watch me do all that fun stuff in fast motion, hopefully, so you're not too bored. And anyway. Yeah, there you go. Hey, what this is prep solve or something to that effect. Just depends on what you want to clean it with. So I'm just getting the contaminants off of it, the dirt, the dust. Sometimes this rag won't be perfectly clean, and the reason being is sometimes this primer that's left on there will keep coming off on your rag as long as you keep wiping. So I've got it as clean as I think that will be. And a lot of guys don't even clean it this well before putting primer on it. You'll see them blow and wipe it, and that's about it. Take number 2. Okay, we're done spraying. And again, that's the product right there, Rust Defender. Very heavy, thick filling primer, good for blocking, good for filling even small little dents. But it's basically a 1 coat. I kind of 1.5 coated it, and that'll be plenty for that. Good color holdout, and I put a guide coat on it just to see. It doesn't really need much of a guide coat, but let's get out of here because breathing that stuff is not good. So there it is, and we'll see you when it's dry, and that'll be tomorrow. Good morning. Hey, it's a couple days later. We let the primer set up nice and hard. That's usually over 24-hour period, but I had some other things I had to do. So I'm going to start off this morning with some 320 just to cut it down real quick, and then I'm going to, after that, hit it with 500. Now I'm going to seal this thing, which means I'm going to put another primer or sealer over the top of this that's a dark gray. So it's closer to this, so that helps me get better coverage over this bright yellow or a really light gray or something like that. So let's get started. As you see, this kind of creates its own guide coat from the pitting, but I threw the black on there just for the heck of it. But you know, you see how it changes color from the yellow to kind of a, I don't know, not so yellow. But I'm gonna also show you what else. I'm gonna use a dry guide coat. And hit it with 500. This is what we call a dry guide coat. And now we'll hit it with 500. And it does not take much. I mean, that's 320. Biggest problem you have is seeing through the dust. You know, 320 is pretty smooth. So the 500 knocks that off pretty quick. Still have some dimples here, as we can see. Some here. So I'll keep working on this, get this whole thing sanded, and get back to you. Okay, we are back. I've sanded the whole hood with 320. I've put my dry guide coat down, and now I'm gonna buzz over it real quick with 500. Now, because I am putting a sealer on here, the 320 would probably be okay. You wouldn't see the sand scratches, but this is a high metallic, so to make sure I don't have any, your high metallics will show sand scratches more than a solid color. So to make sure I don't have that problem, I'm just gonna buzz over it with 500 real quick and knock down that 320 scratch. So here we go. Little trick I do when my sandpaper loads up, take a rag, wipe it off, gets that off, and wipe off what you're working on. Then you can see any imperfections. Okay, see, it doesn't really take long with the 500. Like I said, I'm just knocking it down some now. I'm just scuffing my edges because this primer tends to leave a sharp edge if you're not careful. And you want your paint to stick. Now, I have, as you can see, run through on a couple bare spots down the bare metal, which I tried not to, but it happens. The sealer will take care of that problem. It will stick to that a little bit. Or if you were a little more worried about it, maybe throw a little mist of self-etching on there. And take care of that problem. So, nice day out here today. As you can see, so we've got all of our little pits out, nothing around the edges, everything looks good and smooth. And I will reiterate, don't be afraid to use your sandpaper. Because on something like this, when your sandpaper starts wearing out, all you do is push harder, create more heat, and create more problems. You can actually warp your hood, especially on these little thin Honda hoods. They like to buckle and flop. And here I'm just trying to erase some very light DA marks that I had up in here. So take care of that. See, that's what I'm talking about, these little lines right here. And these little pieces of sandpaper I really don't like. I got some sponge pads that I should be really using, and I think I'll go get one so I can show it to you. I got them in like 500 grit, 800, 1,000. Yeah, let's see. What do you have? 1,000. 1,000. I'm going to grab this 800 little spongy pad. So let's give these a try real quick. And I'm working outside because it's nice. And I'm using 800 here because I am hand sanding. Just don't want any more scratches. Sorry, I keep turning the camera and looking at the side of my face. Anyhow, so get rid of any little scratches that might be in it. That looks good. See, just disappears. Well, that's not disappearing. What is that? Why is that there? Wow. I actually feel something. And I bet you it was from that piece of sandpaper. So I'm glad I went back and checked it, because that would have shown through, because I could feel it. And I still feel something. Gotta be careful out here because this hood's getting hot. It's just smoking. It's almost too hot for me to put my hand on. Like, yeah, that's all I can stand right there. So that's really cooking my primer that I don't need to have happen. Anyway, what I was referring to, little pieces of sandpaper. See, I don't know if you can see it's shiny. It's stiff. So to use this as a hand sanding piece, my mistake, use these. They're a little more flexible. They don't gouge. So now I've got to go back and check over here. Make sure I don't feel anything. Body work feels good. So, all right. Got an area up in here. No, not anymore. Heat must have took it out. Okay, so that's where we are. I'm going to blow the dust off of me. I'm also going to sand these headlights with 800 because I'm going to clear those. And you clear those with some adhesion promoter, which we call Bulldog, and it helps keep them from chipping. And it makes these look brand new again. See how dull they are? That's what we do here in Florida. I'm also going to sand this with like 1,000 because I'm going to blend my paint up in this area because I know this gray is not going to match. So that's how we do that. And after I do that, I'm going to wash the car down, blow it down, wash it down, and then get it ready for paint. We'll see you in a minute. Hey, got everything sanded, blown off. Now we're in the wash down process. I wash down with Dawn dishwashing liquid that helps remove some grease if there is any, some wax possibly, strips the car really well. So let's get at it. Already washed one of these liner things. Can't speak very well. The top surface and the glass, and I washed the whole car even though I'm just doing the front, just to get any more possibility of dirt out of the equation. So, and it still doesn't help, but hey, gotta do what you can. Now, when you're painted in prime surfaces like that, and I don't know why I said painted, I just meant primed, but the surfaces that you're going to paint, try not to let the water run off in streaks. Because it can leave like a contaminant on it. I've had it happen before. And like if you For example, we're working on it and you bumped it with your sweaty arm and you didn't get that off. Sometimes you even have to sand that. When you lay your base color on, it reacts funny and makes it look strange. But I'm going to get a 1000 grit little spongy pad, because I have decided to not break my clear at this stripe. I'm going to just clear the whole fender, be done with it. Be easier and look better. Probably cause myself more problems, but hey, I tried. And I've got good surface to work with over here, so it'll be a nice blend. And I like to use 1000 grit to blend my metallics in. Sometimes I even go smaller than that. Go 2000. Just depends on how I feel that day and what sandpaper I have. No turning back now. This is all sanded. Doesn't take much. Gotta be careful not to sand stuff I don't want sanded. Happens all the time. Good thing it's 1000 grit, I can buff it out. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Don't go through anywhere. Don't break through that clear. We've got an imprint of where that stripe was. Now that's going to give us a problem. Yeah, and this is a 13 model. But it's only got 39,000 miles. So, we want this to look pretty. And I'm going to hit it again with this. Now we are going to let this car sit out in the sun, dry off nice. Get some paper towels. Like I said, I don't want the water to dry in a streak on the fender or any place that I'm painting. So get it so it doesn't run off on you. And that's simply just wiping it down and drying it off before it dries. Just check in for non-sanded spots. Okay. That does it. Now these rags are fine for just drying this thing off, but when we go to wipe this down with Prep Solve and cleaner and whatnot, we're going to use a lint-free rag. So that's that for that kind of prep work. We'll let that dry a few hours and then we'll put it in the spray booth and paint it tomorrow. See you then. So everybody, we are in the paint booth today. You missed me taping up the whole car and outlining everything and showing you all my neat little tricks, I believe, because the camera was on photo. Oh, I hate that thing. You know, this plastic tears so easy when you don't want it to. Just like that right there. You can't see. Dude. Okay, put that paper on the floor because I will be spraying down here, which means air pressure will come down here and hit the floor. But we sealed it here so it'll go that way, not underneath. Won't kick up a bunch of dirt, hopefully. Sometimes I also spray, when I'm putting adhesion promoter on, I'll spray the floor a little bit to make it a little sticky, keep any dirt down. But right now, I'm going to vacuum this. You don't need to watch that. And one more time to vacuum it, just for the heck of it. So, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, finished vacuuming. I'm going to just do a solvent wipe down for the heck of it. Just in case there's something on here, like me touching it, bumping it with my arm, who knows? There's 800 sand scratches are still sure showing through. Now, because lint-free rags aren't lint-free, blow and wipe with my hand. And see, I wipe that thing down, and all I feel is just this fine grit on it. So your hands are lint-free. And that way you can feel if anything's left. There was something on it. I couldn't feel it, but I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. See, and I'm afraid that because I ran the vacuum in here, which I usually do all that stuff the day before, so any dust would settle or get sucked out. And I just ran the vacuum, so I'm sure I've kicked dust up in here, even though I've got the fan running to suck it out, it's settling on the car. So yeah, I feel all kinds of crap on it. And that's not necessarily from the vacuum, because I have had to wipe cars with my hand, like 5 times before they finally quit having grit on them. And I need to go turn my compressor on, apparently, because I'm running out of air. I'm going to let that sit a while because of running the vacuum earlier. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, we are back at it. I am suited up. And ready to go. I'm gonna wipe my hand off. Okay, suited up and mixing sealer. My handy dandy mixing machine. Let's see how clean this is. It's not. Still stuff landing in it. Well, dropping the old tack rag on the floor is not good. We'll pretend we didn't see that. You didn't, but I did. You can't hear me, I'm sure. Instead, dropping the old tack rag on the floor is not good for it. Now, new tack rags, you got to be careful because they're so sticky that you don't push too hard when using them, that you put the sticky stuff on your job. Because that just ruins a lot of stuff. And I'm going to blow and wipe this thing one more time. Even though the plastic is kind of statically charged, you know, when you hit it with air, it's going to kick that stuff up on you and put it in your paint job. So this is the sealer, Nason full seal. But that's not going down first. This is going down on the painted surfaces first, not on the primer, because I don't need it. putting it on here because basically that helps fill the sand scratches. Acts as a, I'll think of it in a minute, because I'm blending on the fenders. The Bulldog acts as a mid coat to help your blend a little better. It helps fill the sand scratches up that are there, even though they're 1,000 grit. The hood, I'm not going to need it because we're putting sealer on. This will help fill those sand scratches. The mid coat fills the sand scratches and allows the blend, or it's calling it a mid coat. It's not a mid coat, it's a wet coat. Mid wet coat, whatever. Anyway, it's a coat that fills the sand scratches and allows your base to blend easier and not show those scratches. A lot of times they'll do a wet coat with clear and reducer. Very small amount of clear, you reduce it by about 200% and put your wet coat on. Essentially does the same thing. A lot of prep work goes into this moment. Mixing paint, wiping, cleaning, taping. And you can do all this work for hours and spray, have a good job, put your final coat of clear on, and get a bug. Little gnat, piece of trash. Gnat usually messes up your job you gotta do. Just stop, let it harden, sand it out, spot it back in, do it over. One more time. I will do everything possible and try every little gimmick possible to not have trash within reason. They have a chemical that you can spray on. I think it's called Stat Free or something like that. And I did that once a long time ago when I was a kid, sprayed it on a car. You know, I don't like putting anything extra on the car any more than I have to. It just opens up the door for more problems. Did it give me less dirt? I really don't remember. I think it was a Corvette I sprayed. Or no, I didn't spray it. Somebody else sprayed a car with it. Anyhow, I don't use it now. Little safety net. You lean over a car, shirt, this sags, sticks in your fender. This one I don't think I have much to worry about. It's pretty small. But I don't want to take a chance. Okay, we are tacked, ready to go. I'm not going to be speaking anymore because I'm putting my mask on. we have a problem, and I don't know if you can see it. trying to get the reflection just right. Anyway, right here, some kind of little rough spot, some kind of contamination, something. Probably about the same thing that was here. Anyway, we have to stop. We have to let the sealer dry and see if I can scuff it out and start over. I could let it go, but being that it's metallic, it's going to show up. If it was white, we could get away with it. So, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, I've let the primer dry. I have 2000 grit sandpaper. I'm going to see if I can just smooth that spot out. Okay. I don't see it when I put the water on it, so I think I'll be good. I'll have to run the tack rag over that whole thing again, and I'm going to hit it with a little sealer again, a little bit dry, and see if it'll cover. idea what that was. I have no idea what the roughness was down in the front. The one up there in the top, well, anyway, seemed like it was like I talked about when I was washing the car. If you let the water run and dry on the car, and it creates like a ring. But as you know, I did not let it do that. I kept it wet. I wiped it off with a towel. So I don't know. Things happen for absolutely no reason. And we just have to go with the flow and fix it. When I took the pinstripe off the side, you could see the color difference between the paint underneath the pinstripe and the rest of the car. The paint underneath the pinstripe was a little bit darker. Well, that's what we got in here. That's why we're blending. close, which is good. Had we panel done that, it'd probably be way off. It's blending nice, so we won't even be able to tell. Piece of trash up in the top of the hood, and I'm going to let these coats dry up pretty good. I'm going to come back, see if I can't scuff that out, spot it, and be done. So I'll be back. Take number 2. We sanded out the piece of trash, a couple other pieces, we recoated it, let that dry, and now we're ready to clear.
tap, I touch it, see if it strings or not. I want it to not string on me. And I touch it and it pulls strings off. If it's too wet, it won't even string. It'll just be wet. First coat, it's alright. Couple pieces of trash. Some of this trash will bury in the second coat. There's some trash right there, right here. Some other pieces. It is what it is. As much as I wipe and tack and wipe, still comes from somewhere. And you can also just reduce your clear a lot more. It also helps if you've got a little bit of a dry spot, a little bit of an orange peel, you can hit it with this and it'll flow it out. That's a wrap. Look at those headlights. They look brand new. Relatively clean. If you were picky, there's a couple nibs that can be sanded out. That's a wrap. We are done.
Good morning, everybody. We are finished with the CRV. As you can see, this is where we blended. So, looks pretty darn good. Not a lot of bright sun out here right at the moment, but you get the idea. Hood came out nice and flat. All of our little issues worked out okay. Remember, I had there's an issue right here that I had to sand back out. That came out fine. Something in the primer here came out fine. So we are good to go. Satisfied with that. Looks good. This is actually a 39,000 mile car, and now it looks like it. So we'll see you on the next video.